Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in this video, you asked for it, you're getting it. I'm exposing even more design advice you need to stop taking. Now, it's not that these people don't know that they're giving you bad design advice, it's that, well, I just know better. I mean, the real design advice is that you need to stop taking advice from people that don't know what they're talking about, but that's a topic of conversation for another time. In this video, we're gonna be talking about another 3 pieces of design advice that you need to stop taking and what to do instead, what the rules are of this so that you can break it. I love that. So many of you in the comment section said, we love that you're teaching us what to do instead of this or how to break these rules. And I absolutely love that. I think that's such a cool idea. And we've got a lot of rules to start breaking. So let's get into the video. Now, the first piece of design advice we're actually going to talk about are draperies. Draperies, curtains, whatever you want to call them. Technically, curtains don't touch the floor. Drapes do. But it doesn't, the term is used universally, so we're gonna just mention curtains. We're just gonna talk about curtains. So, the piece of design advice or the design advice you get is to hang them floor to ceiling. And a lot of times they'll say, oh, you know, hang them floor to ceiling, they need to be triple the width of the window. And while all of that is technically true, that's very true for custom curtains. Custom curtains are very expensive. You literally have to find a place to have them done. You have to find the fabric you want for them. And then you have to pay to have all of the stuff put together. You have to get enough, it literally is so complicated. It is so much work. Fully in interior design school, because I am formally educated in interior design, I took an entire class for 6 months just about draperies, just about how they're manufactured, just about how they're made, just about how to order them even. So it's a lot of work that goes into this, and for good reason, this is the design advice that's given, but I want you to know how to get around it and how to break it and how to do it more affordable. The first thing I want you to know is that I actually touched base on this in my top design mistakes you're making video, but I am gonna talk about it just a little bit here because it is really important. So the first thing to know is that curtains and drapes are technically not window treatments, they're technically wall treatments. However, there are 2 types that are window treatments, and those are blackouts and sheers. Reason for that being, they serve a useful purpose other than looking good. So you have decorative curtains, you have blackouts, and you have sheers. Now with that said, let's talk about why we tell you to hang your curtains floor to ceiling. The reality is we want to enhance the vertical elements of the space. And by hanging your curtains lower than at that ceiling point, we're actually adding in a horizontal element. So your curtain rod and where those curtains end is horizontal versus vertical is the length of the curtain. So we want to have that vertical element go up as far as we can, and then by hanging your curtains and that curtain rod up at the ceiling, you're eliminating one horizontal element because you already have that horizontal line where the ceiling and the wall meets. So putting the curtain rod there completely eliminates that. Most everybody says hang them to the floor. You want them to just touch the floor. A lot of people say kiss the floor. I like to kind of say 1/4 of an inch on the floor is where you want it to be. Like, order them 1/4 of an inch longer. That will be fine. They will just touch the floor. I don't like curtains that really pool too much. I find that they gather and collect dust. I know that there are certain styles that this works really well for. I'm personally not a fan of it. I think that you can go with a curtain that goes all the way to the floor and leave it at that. I actually had a comment from someone who said she has cats and she can't hang curtains all the way to the floor, otherwise the cats will destroy them. And effectively, I told her, create the effect that they do, have the curtains stop where you want them to, but then put things in front of the base of the curtains where they gather together to disguise the fact that they are off of the floor. So there are things you can do like that to play tricks on the eye to make it look that way, but for the most part, you want your curtains to go all the way to the floor to create this vertical element. There are also different types of curtain finished tops on them you can get, and a lot of people are really into pinch pleats right now. With these different styles of kind of details on the top of these curtains, you want to keep in mind your style and what you're going for. If you have a more traditional style and you're looking to have a very fresh feeling, you don't necessarily want to go with a pinch pleat because it's going to create a little ruffle detail. But if you have a very modern style that you're looking to warm up, a pinch pleat is a great idea. If you have a pattern curtain, a pinch pleat's great because it breaks up the pattern. But that's not the topic we're here for. I'm glad I told you that. And also, while we're on that topic, I could talk about window treatments all day, and I will do a fully dedicated video to this. But the number one mistake you're really making when it comes to curtains is you're using too small of a curtain rod. I see so many people that are using like 1/4-inch curtain rods that are like really teeny tiny and that they don't look like they're supporting the curtain, or like they'll have a big dip in them. You want to go for at least like 1.5 inch curtain rod, something substantial, chunky, that's going to really hold the curtains up there but be a little bit of jewelry on the space, which is another layer as to why we want the curtains to go all the way to the ceiling. We want that curtain rod to serve as a piece of jewelry that like brings our eye up to it, and then brings your eye, like pops your eye up to where the ceiling is, because that piece of like jewelry there is what is going to be that kind of like crowning feature. So in my home, I like to have brass, but I would say go for something that contrasts your wall color or that stands out from it. So for you, it might be brass, it might be silver, it might be black. Go for something that stands out and just gives a little bit of something extra to the space to bring the eye up there and hold it in that place. The reason for that, we want this vertical element, we want the eye to go up, is because all of your stuff is down here. Like where I'm sitting, there's chairs, there's jars, there's vases, there's tables, there's sofas, there's everything in this room. I want to bring the eye up to where the space is empty. That way the space doesn't feel crowded or full. It feels very light, open, and airy by bringing the eye up into this area where there is nothing versus down here where everything is. Okay, how to get this curtain look, this really amazing detail for less. Actually, I want to tell you really quickly about my friend Danielle. Her channel is Danielle the Domestic Scientist. I love it so much. She has so much fun. She's renovating her home. She does styling. She does decor videos. Her channel is just so great. Be sure to head over to her channel. I'm going to link her down below for you. But she actually just finished repainting the like main areas of her home. I think her office, dining room, foyer, and living room. Huge spaces, 13-foot ceilings, where she actually did a little video where she went online to look for custom curtains. And she found some beautiful ones online that were supposed to be like affordable custom curtains. I think for one set of curtains, no hardware, no installation, it was about $1,400. Curtains are very expensive. Custom curtains are extremely, extremely expensive. So when you hear someone say, just have custom curtains made that go floor to ceiling, have them be 3 times the width of the window. Well, that's easier said than done, because then you're spending thousands. And I have had custom curtains quoted to me that were $14,000 and $15,000 for a set. Custom curtains can be very expensive. Not that you should shy away from it, because I think you can find them more affordably. I'm gonna tell you about that in just a minute. But what you can do is get store-bought curtains, and then you want to have them hit the floor at the right place and then figure out where the top of them is. Even if they stop a 2 or 3 inches shy of your ceiling, you do kind of want to have a little bit of that clearance. I like to have like maybe like 1 inch clearance or so, but I also have crown molding up, so I put it to the base of the crown molding and it kind of gives me that drop, and then I'll just do custom curtains. Essentially, you want it to go as close to the ceiling as you can while still having those minimum clearances of 2 to 3 inches. So you want to have your curtain, you want to set it on the floor and then figure out where the curtain rod is going to go from there, and it should put you as close as possible to the ceiling. Now, you might be in a position like me where I have 8-foot ceilings, and I have 8-foot ceilings, I have custom paneling on the ceilings and crown molding. So if I get a standard 8-foot curtain, it's going to be way too long. It's going to be a couple of inches too long, as a matter of fact, because I lowered it. What you're gonna do in that instance is you can get some iron-on seam tape. You can have them hemmed yourself. If you know how to hem them yourself, you can take them to a seamstress and have them hemmed. Something like that might cost you $30 to $50, and you get that custom look and feel, because in reality, curtains that you buy at a store are actually made fairly well. They're gonna use the same manufacturing techniques that a custom curtain would. You can go for a more affordable curtain, and we see this a lot of times actually in the fashion industry and clothing wise. People will buy really beautiful pieces of clothing or really affordable pieces of clothing that they really like, and then have them tailored really well, because the tailoring is what's gonna sell that as being custom. It's not necessarily the fact that you went and had it custom made. You can get something store-bought and then have it hemmed, and it will suit the window. The next thing you need to keep in mind is the width of the curtains. So on average, we want a curtain to be 3 times the width of a window. This is really hard to do with store-bought curtains, but you can get around it. So essentially, a standard store-bought curtain is about 54 inches wide. That's kind of, after hemming it, that's just the standard width of a panel of fabric. So 54 inches wide. What if your window is, what if you have like me, like I have 6-foot glass doors and windows over here? Well, I can't go with the standard curtain. It's gonna like just barely, it's gonna be like a flat sheet of curtain there. There's no depth to it. I can stack up 2 curtains. For sure, some places will do double width curtains. That's always a great idea to go with, and you can get them that are around 100 or so inches wide. That's always a good idea. But what I like to do is I like to go onto places like Amazon and Etsy because they actually offer customization features. So you can get curtains that are already made, or a company that has the fabric, they do this, they mass produce this specific type of curtain, but then they'll hem them custom for you, or they'll double up the panels together custom for you, and they'll kind of alter these panels for you. So that's actually what I did in my dining room. I found a company that was doing, I'm looking at them right here, they look so beautiful. I found a company on Etsy, actually, they're based in the United States. I'll actually link them down below for you because I'm actually very happy with the curtains I got. They do them unlined and lined. I actually went for the unlined. In my dining room. I have to still custom order some for in my living room, but I'm gonna go for the lined ones in here. That way they're a little bit more blackout, they're a little bit heavier, but I'm gonna link them below for you because they'll do custom lengths, they have extra wide curtains you can order. There's a lot of different options, and they're very, very affordable. These custom curtains in here that would have cost me over $1,000 anywhere else, I spent under $100 on. Now I know that is like super affordable, but they actually are very pleasantly, surprisingly, like really, really nice. They're not curtains I use though, they're decorative curtains. So if I was gonna go for curtains that I use on a regular basis, I'm gonna upgrade them to the max. I'm gonna go for blackout curtains with lining, and I'm gonna go for an upgraded type of pleat on the top of them. There are so many options, but when you're doing a decorative curtain, you don't need to invest that much money. Also, with a sheer, I think you can get a standard sheer, like on Amazon. You can get pinch pleat shears that can be custom hemmed to a length for you. That's always a really great option. Iron-on seam tape is also a really, really easy way to get a custom length shear because shears are not that expensive. In reality, you can get a really good set of shears off of Amazon for between $20 and $30. Something like that is gonna be good quality, it's gonna be great, it comes in a number of colors. I have them in my living room. I still have to hem them because the curtain actually has to be adjusted because the ceiling hasn't been paneled. If you are following along in that journey, let me know in the comment section down below. If you want to, head over to the channel and subscribe, because we are renovating our house, and I want to share with you how that really happens and how it happens affordably but still looks polished and finished. With all of that said, back to the shears. So essentially, I still have to panel the ceiling above me because we have popcorn ceilings. I want them paneled and coffered. So once that happens, I'll know exactly where the curtain can go, and then I'll order the curtain. I'll custom order the curtains to fit this space exactly here. And once I do that, I will hem the shear. But until then, I have the shears pulled on the floor, and it drives me absolutely crazy because I have to vacuum underneath it, which is why you want that custom fit in curtains. Now, I've talked about decorative curtains. The same rule generally applies for blackout curtains, only they're used and you want to use them. Let's talk about the top of curtains, how I like the detail to look, and then we'll touch base really quickly on some window treatments. So I always like to go to Ballard for my curtain rods. I think that they do really beautiful quality. I like the brass color that they offer. You can get really great ones on Amazon too. Like I said, go for like an 1.5 inch curtain rod, over an inch in diameter at least. I mean, that way you get something that's chunky, substantial, that's not gonna bow or bend, but that's gonna look really good and really just elevate the space and be luxe and luxurious. And they're really not that expensive when you go through a box store like Amazon or Ballard. I think my curtain rod in here this one was a little bit expensive at, I think 150, but it's a double curtain rod. And I wanna say the one in my dining room was maybe in the just under 100. Really, really amazing options. You could do different finials, all of this stuff. Go for what fits your style and a color that fits your style, that contrasts with your wall, like I said, so it draws your eye up there. But it's the curtain rings. It's the curtain rings for me. There are pinch pleat converters that you can loop onto a curtain ring and that will turn a standard curtain into a pinch pleat. You can just go for the rings. They have clips on the back. I don't love the clips. I actually prefer a curtain hook that pierces through the fabric because I find that you get more structure in the top and it tends to look cleaner and more consistent. That's always a really great option to go for. It does require a little bit of measuring, a little bit of time and effort put into that, but you will get a really great look. Now, I said that curtains are a wall treatment, not a window treatment. What if you're in the position where you have decorative curtains, but you need an actual window treatment, I love honeycomb blinds. Some people in the comment section of my Design Mistakes You're Making video actually said, hey, don't judge us too harshly if we can't get this done right away because that's expensive. It is expensive, and I'm not gonna lie, like it can be very, very expensive. But I actually order my honeycomb curtains for my home from the Home Depot. They make them, they'll cut them to custom sizes, ship them right to you. I think the processing time takes like a week or so. As a matter of fact, I think the last time I did it, I ordered the curtains and then they were at my door within like 5 days. So really, really affordable options. And I think the largest one I got was for a 4-foot window, and I think it was $40. So really, really affordable options, really useful. They come in a number of colors. You can order swatches. I'm gonna link that down below for you as well. One of my favorite resources, because you can get really, really affordable options that are not really ugly like vertical blinds or mini blinds or anything like that. They also offer a number of other blind options. I just prefer the honeycombs because they're actually insulating as well. Shutters are always really great. I find that a space with shutters sometimes can look a little bit empty, but I will also add curtains over the shutters just because I like the look and the effect of curtains. So we talked a little bit about curtains. Let's get into our next topic of conversation, the next piece of design advice that I need for you, I really need for you to stop taking. And that is when everybody says, don't get the set. I actually also touched base on this in my Design Mistakes You're Making video. I'm gonna link that video below for you because really great information in there. I really love that video. This is gonna be very, very much expanded on that because we are talking about getting the set. So the idea behind saying don't get the set essentially is that you want to have a cultivated feel to your home. Cultivated is a word I love to use to explain a home because homes should be layered and developed over time. That's the feeling they should have. So if you hire a designer, we'll source antiques, we'll source vintage pieces, we'll source different pieces that mix together and look like you bought them over a period of time, but you can do that on your own in your home. You can actually take your time and source the pieces for it. But the idea about not getting the set is about having a cultivated feel, about having not having too much matchiness. And everybody that does this will throw up a picture of like, you know, some like furniture catalog that has all of this like tacky pine furniture that matches and all of that. And like, it's like, okay, great. We know that's ugly very clearly. Like, did you have to use the most basic photo ever? But the idea behind it is that we want to break up the space. We want to have contrast. We want to have visual interest. And I think that you don't want to get an entire collection or suite of furniture, but to say not to get the set is a little bit misleading. So I personally think, you know, for like a bedroom, for example, you should get matching nightstands and dresser. That way you're creating a grounding element, you're creating a sense of continuity within a space. The space has flow within every area of it versus getting, you know, 2 nightstands, the bed, a dresser, and a tall chest that all match, because then it's gonna be too matchy-matchy. But having those 3 elements that work together is gonna ground the space. It's gonna create a firm base for you to layer and build elements onto that are textural, that are contrasting in color, that are layered and detailed. So get nightstands and a dresser that match, and then go for a completely different style of bed. Maybe that is an upholstered bed, maybe it's tufted. In my bedroom, I actually have a gilt bed, and that contrasts with all of my beautiful woodwork, because you can see from the video, I very much love gold and I love mahogany furniture, and so that's very much my style. So that's what I have in my bedroom, but it works really well because it breaks things up and it contrasts. So I have a Rococo style bed, but then all of my furniture is in a Chippendale style. So they contrast really beautifully and work together really well because I then accessorize things in a way that is very cohesive. You can do that in your space, but getting every single piece of furniture that's mismatching, or that, not, I don't mean to say mismatching in a way that's like putting it down, because there are certain styles that works really well for. So you don't have to get every single piece that matches. You can get 2 pieces that work together. You can get 3 pieces that work together. But if you're gonna go for everything different, make sure you get it in a color scheme that works together and has good flow. So for example, in a living room, we wanna get 2 matching sofas. If you have 2 sofas that are slightly different, or maybe they're, you know, this one is contemporary, this one's modern, but then they're in different colors, and that's not the look you're going for. Like, that's very Studio McGee vibe, but if you have a very traditional sense and you wanna go for that, it's gonna lose continuity. So then we need to build that back up together. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the colors from that sofa and do accessories and pillows over here with them. We're gonna take the color from this sofa and bring it over there. We wanna create flow and continuity to make things look like they're supposed to be that way, but it's more difficult when you don't get matching pieces. Now, I'm not saying get the sofa, get the love seat, get the 2 chairs that match. I'm saying get the sofa, and if you're gonna do a second sofa, get the same sofa, get 2 of the same sofa. That's what I have in my living room. But if I didn't have this in my living room, I would have 1 sofa and I would have 2 chairs, but the chairs would match each other because I like to create continuity and flow. And then I would do pillows on those chairs that match the sofa. That way we have a lot of flow and connection between the 2. That way they feel like they are intended to go together, but they're not necessarily, you know, match. Now, there are certain styles that this doesn't work for. If you have a very eclectic style, or you like collecting and cultivating things over a period of time, and you like this kind of idea of artwork as furniture, this can be really cool, and we can do some contrast within this, but then you can tie elements in together that are more cohesive. So you can get 1 neutral sofa, and then maybe you have like a chair that's green, or a chair that's red or pink or whatever, and then you have a coffee table that's also neutral, a rug that's also neutral, and you have like that be a pop of color, and then you do a vase over here with flowers in that same color to create continuity and flow within a space. You don't necessarily have to get everything that's the same, but you want that continuity, and it's a lot easier to do when you get pieces that match or work together. Another example of it, I have this chest over here and I have this table over here. They're completely different, they're in different styles, they're actually by the same furniture manufacturer, but they're in completely different woods. So this is mahogany and that's a burl wood. They have similar tones in them and undertones. They have similar features with one another. This is a Chippendale style, that's a Sheraton style. They both have brass hardware, despite the fact that it's different brass hardware. They both have marquetry, despite the fact that it's different marquetry. They have different styles, but they work together really well because they're cohesive, because they have the same color scheme. But then the coffee table here in front of me is actually matching to this piece. And then the piece that's over there, the silver chest, actually has the same type of hardware as this piece, despite the fact that it's by a completely different manufacturer than these 3 pieces. But because they have that same color scheme, they work really well together. Because they have the same vibe, the same kind of idea behind the furniture, they work really well together and they have good flow. So let me give you one more example before we move on to the next thing, and that's actually my dining room. So my dining room table is by the same company that makes these pieces of mahogany furniture, wood furniture in this room, but it's in a completely different, I'm looking at it over there, it's absolutely gorgeous in this light. I'll insert a picture of it here. It's really beautiful. It's a substantial, big investment piece that I love so much, but I don't want to have a matchy feel to it. So I could very easily get mahogany chairs that had cream upholstery. That way it would match my sofas and have a lot of flow into there. And that's a good idea if you have a very transitional style and you want to create a little bit of contrast through either your rug or through the accessories you use. But for me, I like to have a lot of contrast and then tone it down by having all of the walls and flooring be neutral. So in there, I have this beautiful mahogany table, but then I got these gilt chairs. These are from the 18th century. They're absolutely beautiful. I love them, but I bought a massive set. I bought 8 of them. And the table could fit 8, certainly. I mean, there's 8 chairs on it right now, but I didn't want to put all of them in there because I want to break it up a little bit because I don't want to have too many of the same thing happening. So I have 6 of these gilt chairs in the dining room, and then I have 2 sapphire blue wingback chairs on each of the ends. It creates a lot of contrast, but it creates a lot of flow because this room, as you can see, has a lot of blue in it. I love blue accessories. I love these blue and white jars. I have blue pillows. I have matching blue chairs to the chairs in the dining room. Because I have those matching chairs over here and I have these gilt chairs here, we're creating a lot of continuity between these 2 spaces. We're creating a lot of flow. We're dragging the elements of that room into this room and vice versa because we have the blue and gold there and we have blue and gold here. So in spite of the fact that these chairs are one set and these chairs are another, because we have them both in this room and in that room, we create a lot of continuity and flow in spite of the fact that we have a lot of contrast happening in there. So another example you could do with this is, let's say you have all white chairs on your dining room table and you have a beautiful wood table. In your living room, you could do a white sofa in a similar fabric. Maybe it's a linen or whatever. You guys know I'm not the biggest fan of like white upholstery because I'm just busy. I don't have time to be cleaning up after everything and everyone. If you have those white chairs in there and then you have a white sofa in here you have a lot of continuity, but then you can go with dark wood pieces. You can go with a contrasting upholstery. So maybe you have two chairs that are a completely different color from the sofa and from the chairs in the dining room, but then you could take a pillow that has the tones of this chair, put it on the sofa, and put a different pillow with those same tones in the dining room, or maybe you get a rug in the dining room that has those same colors and the drapery. You can create a lot of flow and continuity throughout a space by not having matching pieces, but then you can actually create that continuity the same way in the smaller space by having those matching pieces, but not have every single piece be matching or in that same exact style. Now, reasons I don't think that you should go for mismatched pieces all over the place unless your style is something like a boho or a cottagecore is just because of that flow and continuity throughout your home. You want your home to feel like the space continues throughout each room. You can of course do that through color, but in those rooms themselves, you don't want every single piece to feel like it's different because it's very, very difficult to match things up. Most designers are not good at it, let alone people who don't have a formal education in interior design. So it's something that's difficult to do and something that I don't honestly think is worth your time because most of the time it just looks mismatched. It looks like they don't go together, they're not intended to go together, and it creates too much visual interest. By having consistency within those pieces, it grounds a space and it creates an element that you can layer and build and accessorize on that isn't all over the place, that it doesn't have too much contrast and visual interest. In rooms that have pieces that don't match them all, if you look at them, they will all have very minimal accessories. They'll be very clean lines, simple color schemes, and that's because it takes a lot of visual interest to make that work. That they just draw interest all over the place by having things that don't all match or are not all cohesive. And so by doing that, you have to minimize somewhere else, and that's going to be through accessorizing. Versus if you like to accessorize, you can get pieces that are cohesive and then accessorize them and maximize your accessorizing, which, you know, I'm not a minimalist. I think that's very clear. But if you are, you can go for these mismatched pieces, but then be sure to minimize the accessory to create flow and allow the eye to visually process what it is seeing because there are so many different things happening. Okay, the last piece of design advice I think that you definitely need clarification on is when everybody says, measure your room. They say, measure your room, write it down so you don't get a sofa that's too big. And then they'll use an example or put a picture up like this, where clearly the sofa does not fit. And like, yeah, that's a basic mistake. You need to measure, especially if you have a small space like this that you're trying to fit something specific in. That doesn't really need to be said. That's just somebody saying something because they need something to say. The entire point of saying that is because we want you to get things that are appropriate scale for your space. So I don't want you to look at something and be like, oh, that's beautiful, that's perfect, I fell in love with it, it's gorgeous, and so you buy a 10-foot sofa for a space that can accommodate maybe an 8, maybe it even needs a 7-foot sofa, maybe you should get a love seat instead. The entire purpose of saying that is because I want you to get things that are appropriate scale for your home. It's not about it fitting. Like, you can fit just about anything. This room, I could fit a 10-foot sofa in here if I wanted to. Is a 10-foot sofa gonna be appropriate scale for this space? No, absolutely not. But I could fit it if I wanted to. It's not gonna work in this space because it's gonna overcrowd it. So we want you to plan things out. It's not just about being like, oh my goodness, you didn't measure your space and so you bought a sofa that's a foot too large. No, it's about the scale of the pieces and the way they work within a space and the way you can interact within that space with them there, which is why we want you to create a layout for the space. What the recommendation is to either create a layout, create a floor plan, which I actually made a video for, and I will leave link down below, a very kind of basic for beginners how to make a floor plan video. A lot of people found it super helpful. I gave examples, I show you projects I've done in the past, so that's a really great video, but we want you to create that layout so you get an understanding of how pieces work, and you can say, these are the minimum dimensions or these are the maximum dimensions I can have, these are the clearances I need to have in this space or that space, that you can then find a piece that's an appropriate size so that you don't end up buying something or falling in love with something, getting something into your home and realizing like, oh my God, this is way too big. Now the reason the reality is I think that this is misleading in the way people say it because they're like, you wanna get a piece of furniture that fits your space. Well, obviously, of course I wanna make sure it fits in the space. I need to make sure it gets through the door too, so I need to know the door measurement. But to say like, how small do you think my space is? How small do you think it is? Because you see them and they're in these big rooms with this big furniture and you're like, well, you have big furniture, so then I can get big furniture. And it's like, do you think an 8-foot sofa is not gonna fit in my room, in my space? Because the reality is, an 8-foot sofa is a standard size sofa. It's going to fit. It's going to look like a normal sofa. But the entire point of this is saying, plan. This is what we learn in interior design school. This is the number one thing we learn, is about planning, is about calculating, is about figuring out where we want things to be, how the flow works, and how we're going to be able to walk through that space, how to make that space work and function best for us through the layout, through the planning. I want you to space plan. If not only so, you can then make decisions so much easier. And that's what planning is all about. I want you to plan everything in general, and I want you to limit your selections as best as you can by eliminating options that are just not appropriate for your space. I can't tell you how many of you comment and ask what your wall color is, or how to pick wall color, and how to select this and that, and all of these things. And I even have people that have DM'd me, some of my friends, and being like, you seem so confident in what you're picking. Like, how does that work? How do you do that? And actually, it was very intimidating for a lot of people in design school. If I went to design school with you, comment down below and let me know. But I've always been really good at selecting finishes, fabrics, and colors, because it's easy when you go through the process of elimination. When you pre-plan for that, you can say that color's not gonna work, that color's not gonna work, or this fabric's not gonna work, I don't like that, that sofa's too big, it's too small, it's too this. And then you might be left with 3 or 4 options, and then you can say, oh, well, okay, well, that made things a lot easier because now we're narrowed down to this point. That planning is going to allow you to do that. It's going to allow you to make selections with confidence and make selections that are gonna work for your space. So drawing up a quick floor plan, making sure it's to scale. Like I said, this video, I talk all about scale. I show you a floor plan I designed for this space. There are a lot of videos out there. You don't just have to watch mine, but you can pre-plan your space and you can figure out a layout that works for you, so that you're not just out there seeing something and being like, oh, I like that, it's really pretty. Okay, I'm gonna buy it. Well, no, I can sit there and be like, oh, that's so beautiful, I love it. Let me measure it and see if it'll fit. Will it work? No. That's unfortunate, but at least I didn't get it into my house and realize that, and now I have to resell it or try and return it or something like that. You know, so you can pre-plan, and it makes decisions so much easier, creating a space plan for that reason. It's gonna eliminate half of the selections you have, or half of the options you're considering, and then it's gonna say, oh, okay, you know, it's not just your budget that can dictate what you select or get. It's not just the existing colors in your room. It's not just any of that stuff. It's all of that put together, and planning that in advance is what is gonna make selecting pieces easier for you. It's gonna make your design so much more successful and your home work so much better for you by thinking about how you interact with your space, doing a quick layout and thinking, okay, well, can I fit through 2 feet? How big is 2 feet? 2 feet is too small, I need 3 feet. So that means I have to get a sofa that is 6 inches smaller in this direction or whatever. So doing that planning and creating a layout and measuring your space is essential, but you need to go further than just being like laying out a measuring tape and being like, well, we can fit something that's this big. Well, yeah, that's easy enough. I mean, this piece here, I didn't know it was gonna fit there, but I looked at the space and thought, yeah, the wall's big enough, I can squeeze that in there, it's fine. You know, so something like that is easy, but then to figure out the size of a sofa, the size of something that's floating in a room, because we also as designers advise you not to push, you know, seating and upholstery, like chairs and like sofas up against a wall. We tell you to float them in the room. Well, I still have to be able to get around it. So I need to know the clearances. I need to know exactly where that can go, and that's gonna dictate the size of what you can fit there. Okay, everyone, I have gone on long enough, I think. I made my points across. Let me know in the comment section down below, have you fallen victim to any of these pieces of advice that don't make any sense? Do you disagree with me? You might disagree with me, probably wrong, but that's okay. Let me know in the comment section down below. I wanna hear from you. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.